What's going on, everybody? Today we're looking at throwing in some simple titles into your 2D game. I did this on a little side project a while back. I liked the effect so much, I tossed it into Sweet Pea. So what you just saw is a pretty good example of what we're hoping to toss into this scene. Probably just stick a nice title right in there. And this is actually a really easy effect to get. I did this in one of my old projects that I was working on and just carried it on over to here. Thankfully, I've already got some stuff set up for this project, but it's not going to be hard for you to bridge the gaps. So I've got a title for my previous area, the Asimov Castle Ruins there, that I made in GIMP, and I have that file right here. And so what you're going to do is hop into GIMP or Photoshop or whatever you're using, select your font, your coloration, your text, and get everything out there. And then I'm just going to duplicate this layer so I have the old one in case I ever need to edit it. And then just change Ruins to Foyer. There we go, nice and easy. We have, a nice easy 2D text asset we can use as our title. I'm going to fancy it up a little bit here. Alright, there we go. We fancied it up a little. It's got the nice swooshes. Now what we're going to do to add a little bit more of effect to this is we're going to create a new layer from visible. And I've done this with my past ones. It just creates, it like ties into the lighting a little better. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and do a Zoom Blur. Now depending on your application, that might have a different name, but you should be able to connect the dots. And in this particular scene, our light source is coming from the top left. So I'm going to just kind of match that a little bit. And the idea is this is light sort of being filtered by our text. Not necessary, but it's a nice effect. Alright, got our nice blur, and we're just going to change our brightness and contrast and just drag everything so that it's nice and dark, provide some good contrast. Cool. And then just reverse the layer order so that our one we just created is behind our text. That looks pretty good. Alright, we're going to export this out, and I'm going to put it directly into the Project Assets folder. Name it something goofy, because that's what I do. And then we're going to pop back into Unity, and that should be right here in our assets. Somewhere. There we go. Alright, there it is looking good, and we can just drag it and drop it right into our scene. And the tutorial's done. Thanks everybody. Like, sub, share, subscribe. We can fancy it up a little bit more. So, you're going to want to frame it in a nice place. That's going to be different depending on your game, and even for me, depending on my level and how things are organized. But if we just stick it right here, we do have something that works. That's not bad, but we could fancy it up a little bit more. So one thing is your layer order. For me, the way I've done this, I've got a bunch of layers of like atmospherics and lights and stuff going on. So that makes a big difference. Also, I have multiple planes that have parallax camera mapping. So I could do all sorts of stuff with like attaching this like to the wall, for example, or even to that pillar right there. But I think with this one, just tossing it right in the first layer and having it attached to the midground should do just fine. That should work fine. And what we can do is give it a nice fade effect. And you can do that really quickly with an animation. I'm going to hit Control-6 and just pop open my animation tab, hit Create, name it something goofy. And then you want to hit the Record button over here, make sure we're on the first frame. And in this case, it's a sprite. We just click the coloration and then go up to the Alpha tab. And if we drag that down and then back up, we've now keyframed that down there. And then we can select a new frame 10 seconds in. And we're going to highlight our original frame, Control-C, Control-V, copy paste. And now essentially we have that the transparency held for 10 seconds. And then we select a new frame and drag our transparency all the way down. And that is our fade time right there. And that feels a little long, actually. So a cool thing you can do is just highlight all of your keyframes and then scale them all relative to each other. So just scale the whole thing down to 10 seconds. And that's probably a little better. Alright, another really cool thing you can do, I think it creates a pretty effect, is a nice letterbox. So what I've done is kind of a weird little cheat, but it works really well. I've just put big black bars over top and underneath my camera, just out of frame. And if you don't know how to make those, just pop in here, right click, hit Create Sprites Square, and then you can just go in and just like we changed the color of our text sprite, you can change it just like that. So just change them to black and then scale them, stick them where you want, and then drop them on top of the camera. And then whenever you do that, it parents them, and they're just out of frame. So what I've done is I've repeated the process with the animator. I've got a lot going on here, but the thing to focus on is just one animation. Pretend like all this other stuff isn't here. But I created one animation. That's the cam zoom out here. And all that is tied to is the size of the camera. It would be the field of view if it was a 3D camera, but it's an orthographic camera, so it's the actual camera size. And so all I've done is I did a keyframe with it at a larger size, so the black bars are in frame at that point, and then I did a keyframe down the line with the camera at a smaller size. So it's the same exact process we just went through. And then I've actually activated that using a finite state machine, but you could do it in all sorts of ways. The reason I didn't have it just set up as the default animation is because there are a couple different level types, and then there are also rare occasions where maybe there's special circumstances I want the camera to be doing a certain animation. So we get this nice black bar effect and our nice title. It's all looking pretty good. I think that's about it. Let's check it out one more time. I feel like I'm missing something here. Oh, there we go. You see our animation snapped back and repeated itself. So what we need to do is just create an end state for this. And we can do that again with animation. It's amazing what you can do with the keyframe animation really quickly. What we'll do is Control-6, and in our previous animation, we will copy this keyframe, which has our transparency at 0, or our alpha channel set to 0. And then we'll make a new animation, and then we'll just drop that right in there. So that's just going to be our fallback state once our first animation plays. Pop up here in Animator, and if you don't have this tab, then just go to Window Animator, and then right-click your first animation, hit Transition, and then drag it down to your second animation. And this should create a nice smooth transition to where once that alpha channel is set to 0, it stays 0. There we go. And the reason it popped back in is because of the view that we're looking at here. But within the game, it should be working fine now. Alright, and it's not popping back in. That looks pretty good. Alright guys, I appreciate you coming by. As always, like, sub, share. If this has been helpful, let me know. Take it easy.